I'm going to show you how to properly price your products so you don't lose money on every sale like me. I'll even give you my calculator to make it easy. But before we dig into that, I need to tell you a story about one of my failures where I ended up over $34,560 in credit card debt. Because there's a good chance that we've been through the same thing. Shopify was reporting $25,000 in sales and Amazon was at $55,000 for the month. But in order to get those sales, I had to spend money. I had expenses, obviously. Now, typically, I'll use a credit card for these types of business expenses. I pay it off every single month. I get points, I get purchase protection, and I get cash back. It's a no-brainer. But on this day, when I logged into my bank account, I didn't have enough money to pay off the credit card like I normally do. Something was very wrong. I was $34,560.11 in credit card debt, and I didn't know how I was going to pay it back. The sales numbers made me feel like I was winning, but the bank account balance showed that clearly I was not. I will never forget that feeling, and what I did next was something that I should have done in year one. I quickly opened a spreadsheet, and I wrote down every single cost that went into making one single unit, one scorch marker, shrink wrap, baggies, labels, fluid, markers, shipping, mailers, marketing, customer acquisition costs. As soon as I hit enter, I saw the problem. Minus $1.45. God, I felt so sick. I felt about this tall. I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I was starting to learn this game, and I was very quickly humbled. I remember picking up my phone and dialing my mentor and seeing drops of sweat on the dial pad where my fingers had touched. But what's more important than my suffering is what my mentor taught me next. And he said it very calmly. He said, "Hey, Evan, I want you to remember this feeling. This is what it feels like when you don't know your profit, your margin, your pricing, and your costs. Let me show you how to fix it." Today, I'm going to share with you everything that he taught me. The lesson of unit economics. How to know your numbers. But what do I mean by numbers? Well, there's four main components. We have cost of goods, margin, profit, and your sell price. That's what I needed to get clear on. And I found a lot of my students need to get clear on it as well, which is why I'm making this video. And I needed to make sure that I had enough money left over to pay Facebook to get the sale. Let's start with COGS, as it's the most complicated. COGS stands for cost of goods sold. It's the amount of money you have to spend in order to get a product ready to sell. It covers raw materials, labor, packaging, and freight. There's inventory in my warehouse ready to ship out to customers. The amount of money that I had to spend to get it to that point is my cost of goods sold. But you can't just look at your costs and divide by the number of units it makes. It's not that simple. In order to find your true cost of goods, you need to calculate your unit costs. How much does each unit cost you in packaging, materials, labor, ingredients, and labels? That's what this section is for. Here you will list all the components of your product. To find the right number, you divide what you spent on an ingredient by the number of units that it makes. Here's an example. If I spent $6,500 on 1,000 jars, I know that each jar cost me 65 cents. That's the number I'm going to put in the spreadsheet, the unit cost of jars. You must do this for every single ingredient and every single item and every single touch that goes into your product. This is how you understand and know your cost of goods. I do have an example for you listed here, but when you calculate yours, I want you to use the simple or the advanced tab. Just make sure you don't include any one-time costs. One-time costs are things like tooling, die lines, and shipping to the customer. We want to get your true cost of goods sold, so we don't want to include those one-time fees and shipping to the customer directly, as that cost is variable and built into a different part of our profit and loss. But don't worry, we'll be coming back to shipping. It's really important. Once you have everything totaled up, the spreadsheet will spit out a number right here. This is your total cost per unit or cost of goods sold. You need this to figure out your price, your margin, and your profit. Let's talk about profit next, because it's a fun one for me and very eye-opening. The next thing my mentor taught me was how to build in enough profit so I could cover my expenses. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but the businesses that thrive have a lot of margin. We're talking 80% plus margins here. They make a ton of profit by charging more and paying less for materials. That was my next big lesson, how to price my products based on the profit that my business needed and the profit that I wanted. Now, I used to double the cost of materials twice. I thought I was smart for doing it this way. But when you don't know your numbers, doubling your costs twice is just not enough. I quickly learned that the rule of thumb is cost of goods times 5. You must multiply your cost of goods times 5 to have a healthy margin and a healthy sell price to cover all your costs. If I didn't have with 80+% margins on my product, I would lose money. So how do we get there and what do we do? It's simple. We increase our price. Now that the spreadsheet knows your cost of goods, you can multiply it. In fact, it does it for you. Right here, you need to charge at least this much to have a profit of this and a margin of this. Now we're getting to the fun part. We get to change the price on the spreadsheet to see how it affects our margin. Try it. Increase and decrease it by a few bucks. You can see how it's all connected and how the percentage of margin goes up and down with the price increases. Your job as the operator of your business is to price your products properly so you don't have to experience what I experienced, losing money on every single sale. As soon as I put this together, I had two very big realizations. One, I was not charging enough. My products were priced wrong. And two, I was spending way too much money to get a sale. Well, at least we know how to price our products now. But what about spending too much money on Facebook to get a sale? What about shipping costs? How do those factor into this? Let's start with Facebook ads, because it's very common and you're probably running Facebook ads too. It was costing me around $11 to get a customer, but my product was priced at $16.99. That's one unit, a single marker. So if we take that $17 sell price and we subtract the cost to get a customer of $11, that only leaves me $6 left over to make the product, pay for all the overhead in the business, and ship it to the customer. That's only $6 left over for all of that. It just wasn't enough. I needed to figure something out. I needed to figure out how to lower my costs. I needed to figure out how to lower my customer acquisition cost on Facebook, or I needed to increase the amount of money that a customer would spend in my store. This is average order value. Well, my costs were already pretty low. They were around $1 or so I didn't have much room to go. Definitely not enough to cover shipping. So lowering cost of goods was out of the question. Now, Facebook, we could probably lower it down from $11, but that would require a lot of attention, effort, energy, and skills that I didn't possess at the time. So that was kind of off the table as well. Plus, an $11 CPA at the time was fantastic for the craft industry. Amazon was my only saving grace at this point. Yes, they took 35% of every sale, but I didn't have to pay Facebook $11 to get a customer. Luckily, Amazon kept us alive just long enough to figure this out. And I think the solution will surprise you, because the next thing that we did was the single most important thing I have ever done in my business to date. Now listen up, this is really big and it came directly from my mentor. He said, Evan, you need to increase the value of a single customer. Take this single marker, bundle it together, and make a 3-pack. Instead of charging $17 for one, you're gonna charge $40 for 3. This will incentivize the customer to spend $40 in your store instead of $17. This is how you make your customers more valuable. This is called AOV, or average order value. I took action immediately. We built a 3-pack listing on Amazon and on Shopify. Instead of driving traffic to a single marker, we drove Facebook ads to the 3-pack listing. We discounted it down from $51, which is what it would cost for all 3, down to $39. The savings were irresistible to our customers. Sales doubled literally overnight. It was absolutely insane. Simple, effective, and mind-blowing advice that I would have never known had I not reached out to him. Let's take a look at the margin calculator to see how the new cost of goods and price affects our margin and our profit. I promise this all ties together. Look at this, 92% margin with a profit of $37. What? That's way better than a 94% margin and a profit of $6. Are you starting to see how all these numbers play into each other? It's not just about profit, it's not just about margin, it's not just about sale price and cost of goods, it's holistically, all of it, how it all fits together. We immediately became profitable and solved all of the problems I was facing. It all started to make sense. I couldn't believe how such a simple fix had such a significant impact on our business. I'll never forget that feeling, and I'll never forget that lesson learned. Thank you, Steve. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate the kindness and the generosity that you shared with me at that time in my life. It means the world to me. There was one last thing that we haven't talked about yet, and that is shipping. Now, I'm not going to go into extreme detail about shipping. That's another video that I'm making. And if you want to see it, make sure you subscribe or get on my email list so I can share it with you. What I'm going to talk to you about is costs and how it plays into what we have been talking about. As e-com sellers, we need to get the product to the customer. And there are only a handful of ways to do this. For us, we were using the post office, the cheapest, slowest, and easiest way to ship items. I needed to get really clear on our shipping costs so I could make sure there was enough profit to cover it. Now, the mistake that I made when it comes to shipping is actually quite embarrassing. Like a total noob, I didn't understand how the 3PL operated and how they made money. I didn't know how they charged us, and it was entirely my fault because I didn't take the time to learn it and I sat in my ignorance. That's on me. I thought all of it was wrapped together and they had awesome rates because they do a lot of shipping. Oh, that one hurt. Postage was $3.74. The padded mailer was around 10 cents. The label was 2 cents and I thought that was it. But what I didn't account for was the $2.50 pick and pack fee. Every order that was shipped by our 3PL incurred a $2.50 charge in addition to everything else. So after getting a hard and fast education on shipping, it was very easy to see where I had screwed up. Let me recap my glorious mistakes for you and share with you quickly how I solved them so we can really burn this into your brains. 1. I didn't know my unit costs. 2. I didn't price my products properly. 3. I didn't build in enough profit to cover all of my costs. And number 4, I didn't have a high enough average order value to justify my marketing spend and shipping. Here's how I fixed it. The first thing that I did was I got really clear about my cost of goods, down to the unit. The second thing I did was use my cost of goods figure to properly price my products. Number 3, I built in enough margin and enough profit to cover all of my expenses. And number 4, I created a higher value offer by bundling products together to incentivize customers to spend more money. I made our customers more valuable. This was a painful lesson for me, and I didn't fix it until I was over $34,560 in credit card debt. If you take anything away from this video, it's how important it is to dial in and know your numbers. My hope with this video and this training is that if you're not yet doing more than $10,000 a month in sales, that it will help you get there. And once you are doing more than $10,000 a month or 6 figures a year with your products brand, you become eligible for the Operator Academy. The Operator Academy is a structured group training academy, cohort style, where I teach you how to go from 6 figures a year to 7 figures. It's where I teach you how to operate a $1 million e-commerce brand because I know how to do it. When you're ready to start earning more than $1 million a year by selling products online, make sure you book a call with me so we can see if we're a good fit for each other. If you're interested in anything that I have to say, check the description for any relevant links. Otherwise, stay tuned for the next video. Be good to future you.